Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. Coming at you with another random review of a recent horror film from the last decade. It's a film from 2010 that I never saw when it came out, not until just tonight on Netflix. And that would happen. It would stay like that forever until I go to show it. The Last Exorcism. Now, even though 2010 was right around the time the paranormal, supernatural in general, but paranormal and possession films were really becoming rampant and starting to plague the entire genre, especially theatrical releases, but also found footage. There have been found footage films before, but it was becoming more of the norm. Like, hey, you got a possession movie? Let's make it found footage. And I think the thing that really got this thing noticed, got this thing noticed was the fact that it was produced by Eli Roth. It's not directed by Roth, not written by Roth, just produced. So it doesn't really count as an Eli Roth film. Kind of like how some people think Hostel is a Tarantino film because he produced it. Oh, they were just instrumental in getting it made, not really the substance within. And even at that time, I saw the trailer. I thought it was PG-13, but then I was watching it. I'm pretty sure. I'll get back to that. I just didn't think it seemed that. I wasn't that interested, so I never saw it. And it was one of those movies that just kind of came and went. A sequel was made. Yeah, PG-13. That was another reason why I didn't really care to see it. But when flipping through Netflix, I saw Devil Inside, which I just did a big rant on. This. Cabin in the Woods, I did see when that first came out. I redboxed that. Hate that fucking movie. Kind of don't want to do a review because I know people love that movie to death, or at least they did when it came out. So Last Exorcism, it was actually directed by a guy named Daniel Stamm, who he's a German director, mostly known for television. He had directed Fear the Walking Dead, Scream, certain episodes of those series. And the two real stars would be Patrick Fabian, who's the priest, and Ashley Bell, who's the possessed girl. And I have to say, while watching this, I don't want to say impressed because I still don't think it's that good of a movie. But considering my thoughts beforehand and then watching it, because I thought it was just going to be another run-of-the-mill found footage, possession film, but PG-13. So I wasn't really going to, it never seemed interested. But I'm watching it, and it does have more going on than Devil Inside. It does have better characters. I would say this has more atmosphere, although not much. But it does follow a lot of the same tropes that a possession film would have, like, okay, her body's contorting, we hear the bones popping. She's saying vulgar things, as vulgar and filthy as a PG-13 movie can be. But it also stars Iris Barr and Louis Herthum, which they are... Okay, Iris, I guess that's the camera woman. And then Louis Herthum plays Louis Sweetser. Caleb Landry Jones plays Caleb Sweetser. So like everyone has their same name, except for Patrick Fabian and Ashley Bell. Now, Patrick Fabian, I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, that guy looks familiar. He sounds very familiar. I couldn't place where I've seen him. And then I looked him up, and he was... I'm forgetting his character's name now, but when I was a kid, before I'd get on the bus in the morning, I would watch Saved by the Bell. I know, it's a stupid show, but I was young. And once in a while, it would be the college years. Lasky. Professor Lasky. So, there's that. I would say the story in this one is actually... I got something in my teeth that's bothering me. I thought it was fairly original, okay. So, Patrick Fabian plays this guy, Cotton Marcus, he's a reverend from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was ordained at a very young age, brought up in this very evangelical family. And, within the community, he was kind of looked at as like a prophet. He really knew how to reach people and really sell his sermon. I think at one point they even talk about, like, car salesman. And essentially, that's what he is. And then, his son was born, and his son had I can't remember what it was. Either he got sick or he ended up being deaf regardless. But long story short, Cotton has had he's at a crisis in faith, and he's pretty much kind of abandoned his religion and his faith, and he's looking at all these exorcisms that he does, because he's sort of a famed exorcist. He gets letters, and then he goes and takes care of people. He doesn't believe that they're possessed, but he believes that the person in the family believes that they're possessed. So he does all this shit to sell the idea that this person is possessed. Because, and he charges them, of course. But he feels, even if it's a mental illness, even if it's just some sort of trick of the mind or whatever, if they believe they're possessed when he arrives, and then they stop believing they're possessed when he leaves, then he's done his job and he's done him a favor. So he's hired this documentary crew to film his last ever exorcism before he pretty much gives it all away. Or gives it all up, rather. And, the setting is more or less a remote farmhouse. It's the Sweetser family. We have, the father, Louis. The eldest child is a son, Caleb. And then Nell is the daughter, played by Ashley Bell. She's the possessed one. And they really set it up like Louis is very protective. He says he pulled his kids out of public school. Or they didn't go to public school, they went to Sunday school, but some of the stuff they taught wasn't strictly biblical. Like even like the music classes had songs that weren't like religious songs, so he pulled them out. Caleb's very protective of Nell, and Nell is this really, really like sweet, nice, gentle girl. Like she compliments the camera woman's boots. She lets her try the boots on. She gives her the boots, and you'd swear she was just given the sun. Like, like they really. And I would say Ashley Bell did do a good job at both acting really sweet and innocent and being possessed. And I do have to give this movie credit, which one, okay, when talking about this movie, there's one thing everyone hates. Either they hate it or they love it. The ending. Excuse me, the ending. I fucking hated it. Did it ruin the movie for me? Not really. Not in the way Sinister or Split did. Because I can't say I really loved this movie a lot. Like, Sinister really proved me wrong about a supernatural movie. Split was a great psychological thriller with a great, sort of like a modern day Psycho. And they had endings that just sucked. This was just a movie that I was like, oh, this is better than I thought it would be. But, at first when he does his exorcism, he shows the camera and therefore us all of his little tricks. Like, he puts speakers around the room to make like demonic moans and screams. He, puts something on the bed to make it shake. He wears these rings on his fingers, so like when he's holding her head, it will like vibrate or shock. He has a crucifix that will smoke. He's got all these essentially magic tricks to help sell the idea that, yeah, this is demonic possession, even though this is a desperate family. And just as the film goes on, we see that Nell is more and more disturbed. It seems to happen at night. We find out beforehand that, okay, the livestock has been killed. She doesn't remember it. It's like she sleepwalks. And just more and more shit unfolds. And sort of like Devil Inside, there's very long periods where nothing happens. But when we do get something that happens, it is a little bit more exciting, a bit more of a payoff. I would say it did have a bit of an editing problem, the way The Devil Inside did. It wasn't as frantic, but you were able to see more of what was going on. One scene that didn't make sense was, she's an artist. She does like paintings or whatever, and there's a man and a woman camera person. They see there's this picture she drew of them being killed, heads cut off, and so they're all like freaked out. And there's another scene when there's a drawing of a white cat with blood all over it. And evidently they're premonitions, because at one point everyone's sleeping, she grabs the camera, walks up to a mirror, and we get the idea that she rips her clothes off because she's blood-stained all her other like nightgowns. She goes out into the barn, there's the white cat, and she beats it to death with the camera. I will say that seemed like a desperate attempt to make something scary. Because, like, why the camera? Is it because it's found footage and just that kind of... I mean, she could just set the camera down, grab a hammer, a pipe, a pitchfork. It's a fucking farm. And kill it with something. I mean, I know it's PG-13, but... And of course, the scene that was in all the marketing, all the TV spots, you know, right when it would say from Eli Roth, is the exorcism out in the barn, where, you know, her neck and her head's all like twisting around, and which at this point, Cotton and his crew, because at one point the brother gets attacked, gets slashed in the face by Nell, and he leaves a note for them that says, like, don't leave him alone with her. So they think the dad's kind of off. And then they hear, you know, they're in his house. They don't want to answer his phone, so they let it go to the messages. And it's a doctor saying how, you know, she was pregnant at some point. This has been happening. So whatever's been happening is because of depression and trauma from being pregnant. So the woman, camera person, automatically assumes it's incestuous rape because, you know, South, homeschooled, why would it be anybody else? That's her theory. So they sort of get the idea that the movie's really building up that it's mental illness. They really want to put it in your head that it's mental illness, that possession is all within the mind of the person. And I liked that idea. It was different. I mean, even back since The Exorcist in 1973, these movies have talked about how mental illness has sort of disproven or disqualified a lot of cases of demonic possession. And this movie was actually going for it. Hell, even Hereditary is not a possession film. But that movie, Hereditary, alluded to mental illness when associated with grief and stuff like that. Yes, it did, for people that commented on that video. But yeah, I didn't like the ending to Hereditary either. So, like, the scene in the barn, what really tips them off to how, okay, this girl's not possessed. It's... How exactly did they... Well, because apparently it's a demon named... Abalam, which, of course, no matter what movie it is or who the demon is, like, the demon is this one. It's the most evil one of all. It always is. You know, I liked the part when she says, if you can be quiet for 10 seconds, I'll leave. I'll let her go. So, like, okay, fine, but every time she counts, she breaks one of her fingers, which of course makes everyone scream. Okay. So, at that point, you know, she's sitting kind of provocatively, like, her, you know, legs are like spread, and she says she offers a blowing job to where Cotton keeps pushing it by saying, what does that mean? What does that mean you want to do? But she won't come out and really say it. And he says, well, if you were really a demon and, you know, heathenistic, you would know the proper name for what that is. and how, you know, an innocent, naive, but disturbed teenage girl from a farm would probably get that wrong. So that's when they realize, okay, she's not possessed. She is deeply traumatized. Which is like, even in a PG-13 film, they still have to throw in some sort of cock-sucking reference or some sort of like filthy sex act. Every movie, even in PG-13, they're just like, I just have her say it wrong. I just thought that was funny. And right there, and then she admits that having sex with the boy that she met that works at a coffee shop. They go meet with him, and he's like, I met her once for 2 seconds. And, you know, pretty much tells them he's gay. No way it could have happened. And just right there, that's when the movie should have fucking ended. It's like, okay. You know, because he's trying to say, like, possession is mental illness or a product of that. And, you know, I don't believe in demons. These people believe in demons. They believe they're possessed by these demons that they believe in. If I eradicate that belief, I've done what I'm supposed to do. This film would have totally solved that. It totally would have fucking made sense. Like, see? Like, she's just fucked in the head, but we saved her. We're gonna get her the psychiatric help that she needs. But of course, they realize that the Sunday school teacher that she got pulled out of from, you know, the dad pulled her out of the Sunday school. He says he last saw her at X amount of time ago. And they realize that doesn't make sense for whatever reason. So they race back to the house. And of course, the house is full of upside down crosses and pentagrams. They go out to the field. The dad's tied up and blindfolded. The Sunday school teacher has a red robe. Everyone else is like making these chanting noises. Nell is tied down. Gives birth to some red fetus looking thing. They throw it in the fire, which makes it burst, and we hear like these thunderous roars. They went down that road of being sort of realistic, I guess, and really going for it. Like, they're selling it like it's an exorcism film with demonic possession. It's ballsy to get to the end and be like, no, she's not possessed. She's just mentally ill. I would have liked that. It would have been different. And I bought it. I would have believed it. Not that it was real, but, you know, it would have been easier, you know, an easier pill to swallow. And I would have liked that idea, like, they tried something different, but then they just totally go Shyamalan with it and be like, nope, she actually was raped by the Sunday school teacher and impregnated with assuming the Antichrist, which by throwing it in the fire, I guess, makes it airborne or something. This is when Cotton gets, you know, he refines his faith, runs towards the fire with his cross, and we get the idea that he's done. And then, of course, the cult runs after the camera people. We see her get killed. And then the brother, for whatever reason, he's part of the cult, but the dad's tied up. He cuts the other camera guy's head off as Nell's painting had shown. And yeah, I agree with most people that, yeah, the ending sucks. The ending's fucking terrible. They should have just ended it with, you know, even if it wasn't an exciting ending, even if it was just, we just sat through all of that, like two sort of exorcism scenes, and she's not even possessed. She, she's just mentally ill. I would have found that way better. It would have been something different. It would have something really ballsy. You know, I would have really respected that. Hell, even keep the revelation that, you know, the boy at the diner is gay, and it was the Sunday school teacher, but get rid of the demon shit. You know, really sell that she is traumatized. You know, I think that could have worked. But no, they had to fuck it up with that ending for whatever reason. And of course, it got a sequel, which I think only Ashley Bell returned for. That one's not found footage. It's a regular film. I mean, it made $67 million on a $1.8 million budget. So it was still a hit. Kind of a modest one, but it was a hit. I don't really know if I can call this a rant, because the only thing I really had a problem with was, one, the ending, and then just a couple scenes that felt like they were trying to get a scare out, like killing the cat with the camera. Didn't really make sense. But yeah, I mean, I put this movie off for essentially 10 years, because that's how long it's been out, because it was just a PG-13 possession found footage film that just blended in with the rest of everything that's come out since. But I was actually impressed with, you know, a lot of it, like her being out in the barn and doing all her freaky stuff. It was a lot like Exorcism of Emily Rose, which came out some years before it, which I haven't even seen that since it came out. But so even as far as like a found footage Exorcist film, it is very derivative, but I liked the idea of the final revelation that she's not possessed. She's just mentally ill. Then they fucked it up with the Antichrist being in her. I don't know if part 2 is on Netflix. Even if it is, I'm not super interested in seeing it, at least not anytime soon. But yeah, I didn't think I was going to go on for almost a half hour about this. But yeah, that is The Last Exorcism from 2010. Like a lot of films that I finally give a chance, like Sinister, again, not as bad as Sinister. I get into it, and then the ending just fucking sucks. I hated the ending to this movie. But anyway, thank you for watching.